Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Marvel Rivals Championship here in my less lit room. I realised that it's way too hot and currently there's enough daylight that you can see me, so I'm doing at least one cast without my studio lights on. But we are here in the Marvel Rivals Championship Round 6 upper bracket for the Pacific, and we've got two familiar names for you here. Let's head on into our matchup on Symbiotic Surface. This is a best out of 3, and we have GoodBoy, a team that actually made it pretty far in MRC Season 0. They are a team from Taiwan, I had to double check that one, and they got 9th to 12th in Season 0, did extremely well. And they are up against Incipience, who proceeded to get into that upper bracket quarterfinals for the Marvel Rivals Ignite qualifiers. On qualifier number 2. They lost to Margin, who went on to qualify. So both these teams have had some pretty decent success in the past, and are now going to be looking to try and secure their own victory. Incipience, we've got players from Malaysia, we've got players from Singapore. So we've got a very international setup for these teams here. Starting off on Symbiotic Surface, we're seeing a Penny Parker and a Spider-Man first round ban. GoodBoy is starting on the left. On the defense, Incipience starting on the right. Going to be seeing the Wolverine taken out, Magneto and Storm getting protected. We're, of course, on the new patch, meaning that Storm has received a bit of a nerf, an energy boost to their ultimate, and a little bit of a reduction to the team-up potential for the Jeff Nado. Going to be seeing Doctor Strange taken away with Wolverine taken out. One of the solid counters to that Doctor Strange getting taken out. Invisible Woman is also still available. Remember, we are not on the advanced draft strats here. We are going to be playing the standard drafting style, meaning that everything you pick, you secure and ban is banned for both teams, instead of in the advanced Ignite drafts where you only pick for yourself and ban for your opponents, preventing the possibility, or at least lessening the possibility of mirror matches. We have still seen plenty. Namor gonna be protected, a character we've seen extremely rarely throughout a majority of the regions, but has popped up from time to time. Of course, in terms of damage dealers, we are seeing the massive rise of characters like the Punisher, we're seeing a little bit of Storm, we're seeing a lot of Human Torch, Winter Soldier still extremely strong, and yet none of those are touched. Ultron, however, has been fitting in extremely well as a sort of pseudo-second duelist due to being a hit scan that actually does pretty decent damage output. Black Panther and Groot will be the final removals here. None of the Groot counters are currently being hovered, but you did see that we saw the removal of that Wolverine, a massive counter towards the Groot. Punisher also still available, so could have caused a lot of problems. And we're seeing Incipience moving in with the Star-Lord composition. Triple res, quadruple if they decide to go for this Rocket as their third strategist here. This now gives them the potential to revive so many times. They've got cocoons for Mantis, Adam, and the Star-Lord, plus the Karmic Revival from Adam Warlock, plus the BRB, Battle Rebirth Beacon from the Rocket Raccoon. They've got a lot of revive potential here. GoodBoy, they're sticking with something a little bit more aggressive. They're going with a classic combo of Loki and that Lunar Snow, going for that double fate of both worlds, as they were not banned out, and then running the Ultron as the third duelist slash third strategist here, as they're running Iron Man and the Psylocke, meaning that they are going with something that's really popping up in Asia and Pacific recently, and a couple of the other regions as well, but really seemed to debut in Asia. We are seeing the solo Vanguard in the form of this Magneto. Incipience, they do run double Vanguard here with this Captain America. Going to be looking for flanking potential, and of course acting as a sort of fourth strategist here later, once they do have that freedom charge all prepared. And now making their way in, Iron Man poking away from the sky for GoodBoy, but taken out completely here. Incipience playing extremely aggressive right at the start here. Doxland pushing on in. They're running Magneto as their second Vanguard because, of course, Iron Bulwark into Blaster Barrage, which did get buffed in the recent patch, is allowing them to capitalize massively. That's going to be point number 1, grabbed extremely quickly. Over 5 minutes to go. Incipience smashing on through here, but Aim High was able to take down Doxon, who will revive thanks to the Cocoon. No BRB was set up, or it was already used up. Trying to keep the siege going. Doxon taken down again. This time is brought back at the BRB. Imperative Firewall, Imperative Patch comboing together to try and keep Iron Man nice and topped up, who is going for the Invincible Pulse Cannon, but is taken out, unable to drop it here. Aim High backing away, has that Rage of Ultron, just going to use the team up with the Iron Man for a little bit of bonus healing. The Ultron Jeff Fire Hose-like ability to get a little bit of damage onto opponents that does pierce, and of course healing their allies, trying to make sure that the Magneto is massively topped up. Dance of the Butterfly at the ready for Massers. They could try and push on in here, but with everyone already grouped up, it would be a little bit too risky to try and do that and keep that zoning going. Fate of both worlds gonna be burned from Demacia as they are pushing on in, using that God of Mischief to set up, and that is gonna be a pretty solid amount of that burned out. They spotted the BRB, but they cannot attack while in that Fate of both worlds stance, so they're just gonna let it go. Probably would have told their team if they are in comms. Cosmic Cluster, tag my wag. It's been landing quite a few shots so far. Able to get a couple picks. Here comes that Freedom Charge, giving everyone that 60 bonus health every second. Regeneration Domain will shut down the charge in by Xenofly, who is attempting to move on in. Here comes the Meteor M from HK Mario, taking down Tag My Wag, but they have to cocoon up. We see the Soul Rejuvenation going to be coming out from Exile. Moving their way in, Tag My Wag returning from the cocoon. Galactic Legend from Doxon into the backline is absolutely melting the members of GoodBoy, who are extremely outnumbered. Once again, Aim High is all that is left and will be pulling a little bit further back to make sure that they are covered. Giving their team time to rejoin, but in the meantime, Incipience pushing on in nice and comfortably so far. 120, 130 meters already for Incipience. GoodBoy still quite far away. Rage of Ultron to trigger the fight, but that is going to be that Iron Bulwark into the Blast of Mirage, but they're keeping them topped up, using the Snowflake onto Aim High, try and maximize the damage output as Captain America will try and rush into the backline from extremely low. Meteor M is popped and does the Butterfly with Final Judgment that they swapped onto here, away from this Iron Man to meld on through. But Karmic Revival in a nice hidden area, and they don't seem to be able to find the right angle to get any quick pickups here, and with no Iron Man, they can't just send in a lot of AoE damage. Trying to keep the pressure on, trying to push on in. That's going to be a nice pickup with that Cosmic Yard Amplifier for the damage boost. This Incipience keeping control of the fight, making their way forward. They are taking down everyone. GoodBoy just do not seem to have the momentum. Looks like they might be looking at some kind of swap, but they will at least teleport back to the more defensive spawn. Not going to get themselves caught out before everyone else respawns. Make sure that they are all grouped. But Incipience, 3 minutes and 43 seconds left to push into this third point on the first map, Symbolic Surface. They are looking strong right now. Keeping the team topped up. BRB at the ready, placing that in a nice hidden position. Continued shots coming in. Looks like Aim High is going to move off of the Ultron here. Will bring out the Adam Warlock. Going to try and get a little bit of damage output of their own, just as we see the Star-Lord coming in as well. So they're going for a little bit of a compositional clone here, but still sticking with this two-duelist setup as opposed to this two Vanguard setup. Freedom Charge coming in for Xenofly, and now to charge on in with that speed boost and that extra bonus health while charging onto the back and try and get onto Aim High with the Soul Rejuvenation, keeping them topped up, though their team is getting a little bit outnumbered, so they're forced to pull back. Realizing they're about to get completely isolated, trying to get onto the Psylocke for at least a little bit of a trade, but Cosmic Guard Amplifier nearly at the ready, but Peronine's going to be taken down. Pierre, sorry. Galactic Legend at the ready. GoodBoy regrouping, setting themselves up for a counter-engage. So far, with an extra damage dealer, they're going to be very reliant on that Dance of the Butterfly into the backline, meaning they do have to try and force out that Soul Rejuvenation of Exile. If they can do that, they might be able to set something up. What a shutdown there, locking down the Psylocke, and that is their one tool that they use to use as an engage here. Galactic Legend going to be coming out. Not even using Media M to block it, just the Cosmic Yard Amplifier for that extra health. Media M into the backline will find nothing, but they achieved 2 ultimates there. One got put on the half cooldown, the other one just found 0 value, and they can't seem to get through Incipience, who are starting to sustain. Finally, Doxon will be taken down, and there is no Cocoon this time, or BRB to bring them back, but Tag by Wang has the Karmic Revival. That'll bring them back. Aim High has their own, though. If they can stay safe and nearby, they might be able to go for a turnaround here if they need it, but so far everyone is up and staying top. Finally, Massa will be the one to fall. Aim High repositioning, and will bring back the Punisher, making their way in for an attempt at a turnaround to try and bring this game back into GoodBoy's stand. If they can turn this around, they might be able to claim a triple cap of their own to take game number 1, as right now Incipience seems to have control. Tag by Wag getting dropped low. They might have Cocoon. Exile did not. The BRB is up and ready, but no one else was nearby, so no one got revived by it. They cancel it out and are forced to back away as they are getting run all the way to spawn. GoodBoy playing so aggressively, and they did not need to use that final judgment. Setting themselves up very nicely here. A little bit afraid of the potential of someone wrapping around. There is no portal, as you can see, as Dr. Strange was banned out. But there are plenty of characters who can still try and sneak around the side. They'd rather just get to the defensive position. Freedom Charge coming out. Incipience committing to the fight here. Galactic Legend and Cosmic Yard Amplifier. The Media M to try and cancel it, and it lands. Taking out Dox and allowing Massa to open fire with the final judgment. Gets Cap, gets Rocket. Exile is down. Nucky is down. And Massa may have just bought GoodBoy this round. Even Incipience can't get onto this point. Doxon's making their way in. Tag by Wang will not be able to reach in time. Zeno is rushing in as well, but it might be up to Doxon to be the one to touch, as they are the one who is closest. Cap is running in as well. Gets caught, immediately taken down, but it has the Cocoon to try and bring it back. Captain America has managed to touch the point, but they do have at least a couple extra seconds. But Zeno players being dropped low. Soul Rejuvenation to touch the point, using that extra movement speed from Mantis to reinforce in time. Meteor M point blank, but Soul Rejuvenation. The Soul Bond is making it much harder for them to push on through, but GoodBoy are falling one by one. This is an incredible re-push by Incipience here with the reinforce, and the Star-Lord may have to be the one to touch the point, but that is too late. Triple cap by Incipience with the reinforce, using that Captain America and the Star-Lord, their fast rollouts to get onto the point in time, and then with Mantis having a pretty fast walk speed, they were able to get a quick extra bit of healing with that Soul Rejuvenation, allowing Cap to stay topped up after some incredible movement, and of course Star-Lord returned with the Cocoon. Nice reinforcement. Very well done, Incipience. Taking the triple cap. GoodBoy now on the attack. Let's see what Incipience have when it's their turn to play on the defense. We've just seen the defensive position set up. Thought it was a Squirrel Girl for a second, but no, that is just an Adam Warlock. So far, these compositions look about the same as where they ended. No one mixing it up so far. Let's actually have a look at the statistics. So far, in terms of KOs, it's actually not that far apart, but it is still a slight advantage. Going over to Incipience. But again, overall, it's not that far apart. I don't even think I'm right. I think it might actually be just either close. Well, GoodBoy might have a slight lead in terms of final hits. They just can't seem to turn it into a push so far. But they're going to try. Make their way in. They lose the Star-Lord. And make their way in with the Lunar Snow. Sorry, they lose the Adam Warlock and make their way in with Lunar Snow. Nakui has been doing such a good job on this Magneto, keeping the team topped up. There's the Iron Bulwark, Blaster Barrage. Lots of damage coming in from Doxon. We've been seeing a massive rise of this Guardian's composition. It's been so useful. Having this incredible stickiness for the objective. Being able to revive consistently. Having pretty solid damage output between Star-Lord, Mantis, and that Adam Warlock. All having pretty okay damage output. Combo with the Magneto for the Iron Bulwark to consistently get this Blaster Barrage set up. They're so hard to take down. The damage output is solid. They're going to try and make something happen. Demacia will go in with that God of Mischief. to get the fate of both worlds. They're creeping forward. Cosmic Yard Amplifier was used and dropped out completely. Exile with a Soul Rejuvenation as Doxon is taken down and brought back at the BRB. They also still have their Cocoon. No, looks like the Cocoon went on cooldown. Pushing on in. Going for the wraparound. As on GoodBoy, they drop their own Galactic Legend, trying to take advantage as we see the true fate of both worlds. They find Adam in the corner as the Comic Revival will come out Meteor M in the doorway, and it's currently GoodBoy who are smashing through this with the Psionic Seduction to lock down Doxon. It's a numbers game. They found that beautifully. That is aggressive. Doxon taken down, trying a Galactic Legend at point blank, and GoodBoy absolutely smashed this one. Not as fast as Incipience, but they've managed to get themselves on the board and get some good momentum going. Making their way forward, Masa sieging in. Senate trying to zone everyone away, trying to create a little bit of an opening.
Battlefield ready again.
Sending in a couple shots, but nothing too aggressive yet. Xenofly pushing on in. Soul Bond diving in with the Fearless Leap, trying to get into the backline. Nothing too aggressive as of yet. Cosmic Yard Amplifier going to be coming out, giving them all that bonus health so that they can commit to this without having to burn Freedom Charge. But again, all they're doing is dropping health bars a little bit lower without actually being able to achieve much from it as Doxon with a Blaster Barrage did come in there, but the final judgment has been used. GoodBoy pulling the trigger, but Cap is hiding through this Freedom Charge. Not enough to keep them up, getting melted here. The opposing Star-Lord, whose name I will look up between rounds. Blaster Barrage with the Iron Bulwark. Several good sets of damage there using the iframes from the flip. And even able to chase back onto Pyrenes. Puts out a new BRB. Getting chased down. And this Star-Lord is suddenly activated like a sleeper agent. Holding on to that Galactic Legend, but has the zoning set up here. Trying to get onto Exile to push them back. Not going to be enough. Nakui trying to create an opening. They are going to try and delay this. Cap has managed to make their way onto the point again. They will push on in. Not touching in time. So close. Nakui was literally on the edge of that. But they have been able to take at least a fight, taking down the Star-Lord. But they are down 3. They're down 4. This is GoodBoy pushing in. They picked up a second Vanguard and suddenly it's working. We've been seeing a little bit, like we mentioned, of this solo Vanguard composition. But sometimes you just need a little bit more beef. And that's exactly what we see from GoodBoy. Shuryu going to be bringing in an extra push here and some extra Psionic Seduction. They've been using some great Carbon Crushes. The Psionic Seduction on the first point was fantastic, and they are now trying to make something happen. Tag My Wag has moved off of the Adam Warlock and has brought out the Hawkeye of their own as Doxon takes to the sky with the Galactic Legend. Regeneration Domain will shut that down in its entirety. Trying to go to the back line, countered out here, and that is a huge pickup. Very solid damage on the back line. Tag My Wag dropped low. Blaster Barrage. No Iron Bulwark, but the damage output is good. Tag My Wag is trying to land the shots, trying to take the duel, and will take the duel with the help of Doxon, who has swapped off the Star-Lord of their own, has brought out the Hella. They are bringing everything they can to try and deal with this. Pushing on in. They have Pyrenes, who's moved over to a Loki, so they could try and bring him back. If Doxon is able to find a pickup, Iron Bulwark comes on in. Aggressive move out. Astral Flock to touch the point because no one else is there. Soul Siphon, Meteor M, but Regeneration Domain will block it. Being pushed back, but Doxon able to sustain through thanks to that fate of both worlds from Exile. Tag My Wag with the Hunter's Sight, but it wasn't enough to burst through anyone thanks to Aim High with their own fate of both worlds. Pushing on to the point. Massa up on the high ground. Drops the turret, but is taken down, unable to sustain through this onslaught from Doxon. And there's no revives for them. No revives at all. Down goes 2. It's a triple KO for Incipience as they are holding the line, but it's still 2.5 minutes to go. They will chase back GoodBoy. GoodBoy, though, with 2.5 minutes, they only have to get another few meters. Lovely hold. And here comes the Hella. Star-Lords abandoned across the board here. Couple shots. Finds Doxson. They enter into the duel. Wasn't a 1v1 because someone decided they wanted to help. Doxson's going to be ignoring that flank, just going to be focusing on the main attack angle, trying to take down Massa. Zionic seduction immediately into the Goddess of Death to try and make sure that the sustainment of Media M, and the focus targeting will pop them out. Doxson forced to wrap around. Find shot 1, find shot 2, but it's not enough. Hella stays going. Here comes Enquiries with a fate of both worlds to make sure that they have presence on the point, to make sure that they can keep topped up and that Captain America can push on through. But here comes the counter fate of both worlds from the God of Mischief. It is both Lokis currently having the dance off, with Massa taking advantage of the supportive ultimates, getting taken down with the final judgment, pushing on forward, melting the regen domains, trying to take out the Cap. But Captain America will go down. Here comes another fate of both worlds. We're taken out point blank. We are heading into overtime in game number 1 as GoodBoy will even it up. 3, 2, 3. And GoodBoy able to do it in much more convincing time as well. We looked at that and we were seeing what seems to be Incipience dominating on that attack. But GoodBoy able to push much faster, forcing a complete draft change from both these teams. And we're able to come out on top. And yeah, now there is an obvious lead for GoodBoy. These teams taking it to the limit. 25 final hits for Massa. That is pretty impressive. Ooh, and we have the Squirrel Girl coming in. Let's see if I can do the translation now, actually, because this draft is taking a little bit longer. Reminder that for translating names, I simply use Google Translate on my phone because it is the easiest method I have available to me. Looks like this player's name is Mud. Okay. Good luck, Mud. We'll give that a double check just to make sure we're not being super offensive. Nope, it is fully assuming that it is Mud. So, best of luck to Mud, bringing out the Squirrel Girl here. Going to try and just maximize damage output. Incipience, they've moved back over to the Star-Lord and that Adam Warlock for that maximum revive potential on the attack here. Just make sure that they can continuously push on in over and over again. With, of course, only a minute to go, every opportunity to stay near the point is important. So revives are fantastic. With Doctor Strange banned out, it's going to be your best bet about staying nearby. Massa in the culling turret sees the slow approach of Incipience. Sending in a couple shots early. Mud also sieging in. Squirrel Girl, not seen too often. Usually is a siege breaker. In this case, as a defender, not going to land that route. Goes for the second one, but the Iron Bulwark is going to shut that down. Xenofly going to be the first to go down here. Was the BRB placed? Massa taken out by Tag by Wang as Mud continues to siege on in to prevent anyone from making their way onto this point and taking cover. Takes out Exile, who does have Cocoon. Doxson is down as well. With 4 seconds left, they have to revive here. They need to touch the point, and they will do so. As Nakui will make their way onto the point to try and hold this Xenofly, arriving just in time as well. They look for the route, but decide against it. Unbeatable Squirrel Tsunami to try and knock them down. They go to the high ground. Immediately going to get dueled out by Mud here. Cosmic Yard Amplifier for that extra damage output, but they try to focus it down. Magneto protecting it with that magnetic barrier. They find Tag by Wang on the flank. No revives, and with 68%, they have to use the Cocoon to make their way back in. Fantastic route with the Squirrel Guard as they try to get the turnaround. Media M taking out Doxson on the wall. Tag by Wang needs to stay up, and they need to get this Karmic Revival off as HK will get the snipe. Doxson is revived with that BRB, the Battle Rebirth Beacon. Nakui is trying to hold the line with Xeno. They're pushing through, trying to delay this as long as they can, but Tag by Wang is nowhere near the fight anymore, and the front line has been cleaned out. It's a full hold by GoodBoy. The Squirrel Girl defense, though. What a setup, landing those Squirrel Guards for the lockdown. Sieging the hallways to make sure that Exile could not take cover. And Incipience, they now have to do a full hold themselves. That's the only option now, because if you don't get a full hold, if you let GoodBoy get 1/3, then that's a draw. That is how the system works. If Incipience can't hold back GoodBoy. The game is a draw, and we head on to a new game number 1, meaning that you can, in theory, in a best-of-3 series, have more than 3 games if you get a full draw like this. There is no overtime. So it comes down to this. Can GoodBoy push on in? They just need 1/3. That is it. Incipience, tag by Wag. Brought out the Hawkeye for this. And Doxson with the Hella. They've decided that long range is going to be the name of the game. GoodBoy have double the time that Incipience do, though. So much of an opportunity to try and turn this game around. GoodBoy, Psylocke, Hawkeye. Going for a little bit of long-range siege. Weaken your opponents before you pull the trigger. And make their way out, deciding on the Punisher. Start on Hawkeye, send 1 shot, and then swap the Punisher. Couple shots downrange, need to be careful of tag by Wag. If they can land these hits, then it could be all over. Piercing shot. Seeing the flanking Psylocke retreat up to the high ground. Trying to get some good damage output. Very good damage onto that Emma Frost, who's getting topped up, getting sustained here. The counter focus, Psylocke up to the high ground. Great knockback, but tag by Wag is a little bit alone here. Iron Bulwark is slowly being healed up, and they need to make sure that they're away from this. You, of course, have the Frost arrows for that little bit of lockdown if they wanted to get nerfed, but it's still extremely strong. Massa creating an opening, trying to get onto Doxson, who is forced to use that Astral Flock to get out of danger. It's slow and steady. We're down to a minute, and so far they have yet to even touch the board, really. Comes down to this, 1/3. We need to see Incipience start to get taken down, as we will see the God of Mischief onto that Lunar Snow. Dropping it quite early. But 12 seconds of essentially invulnerability due to how much the healing is a huge amount of the time that GoodBoy have left. Gonna pull the trigger, burning as much time as possible. Parried. Creating an opening, pushing them back, forcing walking distance. Trying to make a setup, but Demacia will be able to do the same. Gets caught by the Frost Arrow. Fate of both worlds, gonna be burned from aim high as they try to make their way in. HK Mario, they are committing. Paralyze has been taken down. They're pushing them off the point, which starts to charge up. Zarnik's introduction coming in from Xenofly. Off of that Captain America, onto the Emma. They tried again, onto the Punisher with the final judgment, but they are untouched, getting protected by Magneto. Onto the focus, they can't lock him down, and Massa is cleaning up. That is GG. And GoodBoy take game number 1 in a 4-3. Nicely done. Massa with the MVP there. Well deserved. That Punisher has been one of the meta characters recently and was kind of game-changing. Really did sort of shift how that match was played. Looking at the stats here, 30 final hits, 18 for Mud, 16 for Doxland. 35k damage, 37k damage, 41, 38 for HK Mario. Pretty decent. Least amount of times getting eliminated as well. HK Mario, they got 48k damage blocked, which is the 3rd highest in the game, while also getting 38k damage done, which is the 2nd highest in the game, beating out both the Psylocke and Doxland. Extremely good work, 14 final hits, and only got taken down 3 times. HK Mario did huge work there. Top damage blocks, though, gonna be Nakwi. They were doing insane work, not just protecting their Star-Lord when they went in with that Blaster Barrage, using Iron Bulwark, but also just being the barrier for their team, protecting Cosmic Yard Amplifier at times, 75k damage blocked, not too surprising. Very impressed by Xenofly as well, even though they were capped for most of that game, they were still blocking a lot of damage for their team, 59k damage blocked. And top healing, 60,000. Pierins, almost double anyone else in the game, at least 50% higher than anyone else in the game, except for Demacia, 43k, just under 50% higher than them. But very nicely done on that Rocket and that Loki. That is game number 1, and what the hell happened to my hair? good heavens. All right, I need to get set up for replay number 2 in this best of 3 series. We very nearly could have been a 4-game series. And as usual, there's still the bug that takes me back to the main home screen, meaning I have to go all the way through all the settings again to find replay number 2. There we go. And while that loads in, a quick reminder that if you are enjoying these videos, then you can support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing to these on the videos, ringing the bell so you see when they go live. You can also support by checking out any of my socials in the description below, and also anyone who joins me on these casts sometimes. They're very kind for giving up some of their time to join me. And of course, you can help by becoming a member like these wonderful people as we head on into our draft. These people pay monthly in order to get early access to videos. If I go to LANs, they'll be getting behind-the-scenes content, and they also get names shouted out in videos. So shout out to Dump Alt, Arso, Doki Pokey, and John. Thank you so much for helping support the channel. It helps a lot because it means I can put more time into doing these. YouTube does not give a lot when it comes down to ad revenue, so every little bit helps, and these members are really helping it keep the channel alive. We're going to see that Black Panther taken away here. Sorry, protected with Dr. Strange. Banned out last game, making their way back in. Spider for Spider, Penny for Peter will be removed. Demacia hovering the torch. As a potential damage dealer here as we're heading to Hall of Jalia. A convergence, no domination between these two teams. Starting off with the Wolverine in that middle bad spot once again. Incipience playing pretty similar to how they started. This time the Adam Warlock is banned. That triple res composition was proving to be quite the nuisance, so they will remove it for everyone. Ultron. Gonna be protected again. GoodBoy played it for a little bit, but then swapped off it later. But giving themselves the option to go back to that well if they wish. Incipience of Ultron on the board might be worth protecting. Someone who's a bit more anti-flyer, like a Hela. Winter Soldier, perhaps. They choose to protect Magneto. Did some huge... Legitimately, Magneto just did such good work for both these teams. It's not surprising to see them getting that shield this round. Final bans for each team. Incipience taking away the Punisher. Like we said, potentially removing something that's a bit anti-flyer. You would expect a GoodBoy to be the ones to do that, though. Incipience, they now have opened up the option if they want to play some flyers. And also GoodBoy did an extremely good job with their own Punisher. Massa was causing some serious issues. Got the MVP for a reason. GoodBoy choose to forego their last ban, or someone just went to the bathroom or disconnected.
The right heroes could make all the difference.
Right now, it looks like their captain isn't selecting a character. There we go. Okay, they are back. I assume they just missed the ban. And it looks like GoodBoy will return to the well of Iron Man Ultron. As their opener, Massa is looking at that Black Panther. It was protected. And Incipience, what do they have to deal with it currently? Penny was banned away, so we're not going to see anything of that variety as a ban here. So you look at other things that could stop the Black Panther. You want stuff with a little bit of crowd control. Mantis can sleep them if you're lucky. Same with obviously Luna can freeze them. But if you're looking at characters who can really try to punish them, the Thing can stop them dashing around. Loki could drop a little bit of a regeneration domain to make everyone invulnerable when the Black Panther tries to rush on through. And the Winter Soldier could Soldier's Fist or Bionic Hook if they're able to land it in order to try and stop this Black Panther from spinning on through your entire team. Obviously, Incipients do not know this is coming, and yet they've somehow built pretty solidly against it. They've got the Loki, they've got the Winter Soldier. They do have a couple of these tools. The Thing has not been picked, but it is a little bit of a rarer pick these days as is.
2, 1. You have to stop them.
Lead the charge, Incipients making their way forward. Xenofly on the Strange this time. Going to start with a portal. A little bit of a Loki firing squad up high. They don't even scout their opponents. They move straight in. Black Panther already creating a little bit of damage output. Massa through the entire team. Reset after reset. Untouched, using the portal for an escape here. And then coming back through. That was an absolute massacre. Doxon is going to try and contest this, though. Has managed to push on in and create a little bit of an opening. They took out Shuni. And currently, no one is stopping them. Massa making their way on. Lands the spin kick with the javelin for the setup. Astral Flock, and it is going to be a pickup by Mud for the final hit. Tang Mai Wang will be pulling back, letting the team regroup so they can push in together. Massa up to the high ground. Eats a pretty big shot, but is tanking. Looking for a wraparound. If they could get in behind people, they could cause a little bit of problems here. Moving off of the Loki. Pierines brings out the rocket. BRB. Repair mode. Some more AoE healing. Could be effective, but it means they now do not have one extra character who could potentially protect the backline against that Black Panther, who is currently making their way in. Javelin and wiped. Lovely use of the Soul Siphon there to keep them in play in the exact same position so they can punish them and stop them from dashing away, at least that point. Demacia going with that God of Mischief, setting up for the Fate of Both Worlds. Cosmic Yard Amplifier and the Fate of Both Worlds coming in from Incipience, overlapping their strategist ults, but now they can set up a damage boost if need be from either one, as they're already damage boost from the Cosmic Yard Amplifier. Could try and go in with a Kraken impact if need be. Not needing it though, as we are seeing Incipience cleaning up here. Black Panther comes back through, and Bast Descent will not even go off. Demacia chased off, leaving a clone behind, and point number one will be grabbed by Incipience. They still have the Goddess of Death, they still have the Eye of Agamotto. This is a solid setup here so far by Incipience. Took a little bit to get going, but they've been able to rout GoodBoy and activate that statue of Bast. Mud making their way into the backline. Would love to try and take out the Winter Soldier. Nice dodge into the dust of the Butterfly. And that is going to be a huge pickup. The barriers to at least block some of that damage. And the Vanguard will make it out here. But the push is slowed. Finds Tang Mai Wang again. If they can literally just take them out for a second time on cooldown. Forced to retreat. Eye of Agamotto comes out from Xenofly. Trying to get up to Demacia, which they will get. Shuni is down. And Incipients continue to push on in. Massa is caught. Mario is buying some extra time on the point, but they are just getting outnumbered and rolled out here. Mud waiting for the map heal to spawn. Picks up the health pack. And will continue to look out, see if they can catch anyone out of position. But right now, Incipients are playing extremely grouped up. Kraken Impact still at the ready, and Tag My Wang is seeing Mud on that wraparound. Keeping a bead on him. Mind Aegis blocking the Tainted Voltage, pushing forwards. GoodBoy, they do not have a lot of their tools here, but they do, of course, still have that Fate of Both Worlds, which will be dropped to counteract that Cosmic Yard Amplifier, and they will burn Sonic's Induction, committing to the fight, even without a lot of offensive ults, but they are zoned away. Counteracted here. Tag My Wang, unprompted, decides that now that these ults are down, it is time to pull the trigger with the Fate of Both Worlds expiring. Goes in for the Kraken Impact, will not find a reset, but will find a Massa, who has swapped over to the Star-Lord. Spider Cook dodged by Mud. And they're still trying to find an opening. Another Tainted Voltage to slow them down. Dance of the Butterfly coming in from Mud for the turnaround, but the Fate of Both Worlds will shut that down. And Mud dashing away up to the high ground. Eye of Agamotto comes on out from Xenofly to try and push on in. The regeneration from that invisible boundary, keeping the team topped up. They just cannot get taken down. Mario with the Meteor M. And Incipience with yet another dodge. They are sustaining through this extremely nicely. Here comes that counter Meteor M from Nakwi. Bionic Hook into the Meteor M. And Incipience have found their opening, pushing on in to try and set themselves up for that point number 2. And no one is close to defending. That is going to be 2 already on the board with 3 minutes to go for Incipience. They set themselves up extremely nicely here. Looking for an opening. Mud has moved on to a Winter Soldier of their own, seeing if they can grab anyone. They Voltage flies past.
A nice deep freeze.
Not going to land. Fate of both worlds, a Sonic Seduction about to be ready at the same time again for GoodBoy. Bardic Hook, 2 members, but Soul Siphon interrupts the Soldier's Fist before they can capitalize as in comes the Kraken Impact. Once again, immediately a Fate of both worlds is going to be burned, meaning no more resets for Incipience, and they will be forced to back away. But GoodBoy burning a pretty solid cooldown. That is a trade that they will be okay with. Kraken Impact for a Fate of both worlds is beautiful. What a bionic hook there. Nakui is down, Tag My Wag is down. And GoodBoy, they burned a big defensive ultimate, but Demacia now on that Invisible Woman has the Invisible Boundary. They have their own Kraken Impact. And they have that Sonic Seduction. So they do have a defensive, an offensive, and a set-up ultimate. Incipience, they're in the exact same boat though. Cosmic Yard Amplifier, Goddess of Death, and that Eye of Agamotto. Sonic Seduction is burned to try and pull them in onto that Magneto to try and get the setup. Eye of Agamotto going to be coming out. Diamond Form allowed him to tank on through, but aim high. Mud and Demacia are already taken down, and Doxson didn't even use the Goddess of Death to clean them out. This is Incipience pushing on in towards point number 3. They are smashing this. Set up beautifully. Kraken Impact for Mud at the ready. Galactic Legend for Massa, and they have Media M. Incipience, Goddess of Death, Media M, Fate of both worlds, and they're about to have Kraken Impact of their own. Incipience much more prepared here. Bardic Hook will not land. Doxson on the flank gets bullied with the Mag Cannon, but will get brought back at the BRB, so they're going to be able to rejoin this fight as Kraken Impact and Meteor M going to be dropped here, committing for the full fight. No reset yet, though, with the Fate of both worlds is allowing the counteraction, but they are still getting cleaned up off the board. Massa's Galactic Legend expires, and they're trying to flank. They're trying to buy time, but in the meantime, the cart keeps pushing in. Exile with the Fate of both worlds. They spot Massa, and Doxson takes them out easy. Goddess of Death to prevent anyone on the reinforcement, but it's too late. That is already Incipience with their second triple cap of the game, and they now have 23 seconds left, which will of course be turned into 1 minute and 23 if GoodBoy are able to get a triple cap of their own. Neither of these teams seem to be able to resist the overwhelming pressure. Their attacks are insane, but their defenses, they just can't seem to resist outside of that short stint with the, well, the Squirrel Girl from GoodBoy. And GoodBoy moving back to the Ultron here, and Hawkeye coming in. They've got Hawkeye, they've got the Lunar Snow, setting themselves up for this new Hawkeye setup. Did get nerfed a little bit on that Ice Arrow, but the fact is it's still extremely strong. Incipience looks like picking the exact same. Not much different pairings on that rocket for the revives. Exile on the Luna. Keep the team topped up. Massa, no Hawkeye, currently on the Scarlet Witch here. Going for a Might and Order. The Dark Magic team-up. Going to be making their way out. Running Ultron as a second strategist as opposed to a third. Very uncommon. See how well they're able to do there. Need to be dropping at least some of that healing. We'll pop it onto the Scarlet Witch. The team is extremely split. GoodBoy are miles away from each other. Doxson knows that Ultron is there, trying to chase them down. Doesn't want to dive down to this low ground, though. That's a lovely angle. Beautiful hits. Separate Barrier has to be used. Burning through a large chunk of that cooldown. Still trading out with Ultron, still getting healed up. Has the Snowflake, so will be topped up consistently. But here comes the commitment. Cloak and Levitation. Astral Flock has to be used for the disengage. In the meantime, on the flank, Mud sending in shots, creating distractions, creating openings as Rage of Ultron. The first ultimate to charge, getting some pretty solid damage. Actually, getting putting a lot of damage into a doorway. But it seems to have been enough. They've set themselves up. Zeno going to try and portal to their own team spawn, but no one's touching. So the point's already grabbed. The portal comes out.
Portal is not my creation.
What is this? Help get that vehicle.
They're going to make their way in. And yeah, Xenofly trying to get out of danger. They've managed to get themselves trapped. They have no portal. They are just going to get taken down here. And no one there to touch the point means that portal, while ambitious, if they could have done that, that would have been cool. We'd love to see it when strangers portal, not from their own location, actually just portaling onto the objective and then to their own spawn. But with no one there to set up, they were unable to get much value out of it.
GoodBoy.
Massa maximizing the damage output here. There's that team up for the huge damage. The Chthonian Blast replaced with this massive projectile-based damage output. Dark Seal on the corner to try and set up.
A nice deep freeze.
Ivangamoto sent out and blocked here. Nothing is going to be found as they push on in with the Reality Eraser. Bionic hook for the interrupt. So now they turn onto the Hella to take them out of the sky as Astral Flock for the escape. But she got in. Counter Ivangamoto. Blocked as well. Put on the 55 cooldown. And we are just seeing GoodBoy unable to get any of their ultimates off Incipience with the counters, but they did drop their Fate of both worlds. Media M and Kraken Impact are at the ready though, and GoodBoy, they're going in for round number 2. Sonic Seduction with the Reality Erasure creeping around the door frame. Will not get there in time, but it's enough to take out Nakwi. Will get taken down though. Aim high with a pretty solid shot. Not enough for the full setup. And this is still going to be point number 2, grabbed by GoodBoy. With 4 minutes and 45 seconds remaining, GoodBoy are getting some massive momentum going here. And they might end up in another overtime with more time left than Incipience. This is pretty difficult. Shooty looking for an opening for that Eye of Agamotto. Xenofly, 44% of the way to theirs. Tang My Wag has really been holding on to this Kraken Impact for a long time. Bionic Hook, charged, will not find a target, trying to get onto straight. Here comes the Cosmic Guard Amplifier, and the Kraken Impact will finally get burned from Tag My Wag. No resets gonna be acquired. Rage of Ultron to push on in. Ivangamoto finally gets burned, gets all the backline. It's gonna be a wipe. Doxel is pushed off the point. The car keeps moving, and they try and chase down that Hella as they move on in. 68% towards a Reality Erasure, which could be the tool to clean out any defenders, as this is a very close spawn to that final point. Doxel has that Goddess of Death to make their way to the sky, and Xenofly now has their own Eye of Agamotto for this turnaround. Media M is going to be burned from Nakwi nice and early. They need to drop this because they need to make sure that they're on the point. Sends it, finds no one, but they're going to try and hold the line. Goddess of Death takes to the sky, and Xenofly is all that's left. Ivangamoto is interrupted by the freeze. They are taken down, and the Goddess of Death sieges on through. It's a counter triple cap by GoodBoy, and they did that with 4 minutes remaining.
Including which side you're on.
What a setup here. It's 1 minute versus 4.
All the difference.
And suddenly Incipience, who got only triple caps so far during standard playtime as opposed to overtime, have once again found themselves on the edge of being sent to the losers bracket thanks to this just overwhelming pressure. And GoodBoy with a very humongous-like draft, but with some alterations, again, running that Ultron as the second strategist as opposed to a third duelist. Let's actually have a look at the stats to see what the healing output is. Doing pretty well. They did, of course, play something different on round number 1, but 27k healing. They're not that far behind Perrines or Exile, even though they just played a whole triple cap round on Ultron. GoodBoy. They need to go as far as they can on this defense. They need to make sure the Incipients do not get any percentages at all.
The battle starts.
They've
in
done it
5,
once.
4,
Can they do it
3,
again?
2, 1.
Tang My Wang going to be winter soldiering.
Securing the mission area.
And with only a minute, They're not going to burn their portal yet. Portals from Reinforced, which is why it's risky that they are starting off on this Doctor Strange, but that's a big pickup. Taking out Massa, and with no rockets this time, there will not be any resurrections. Pushing on in, Pararides is down, Incipience, their attack, it's Mud on this Hella, who is picking up everyone, and with only 30 seconds remaining, with Doctor Strange being one of the last to fall, that is massively going to slow down the re-engage potential. It has to be Portal, but someone might have to try and rush in and touch the point, because again, Xenofly, they went down so late, this is the risk of starting on Strange. 17, 15, 14, 13, Portal. Trying to interrupt him. Iron Bulwark comes out. 7, 6, 5, 4. Frozen with that extra shot. But it's enough for the portal to come out. They'll make their way in for the overtime. This is the last ditch effort from Incipience. They have no ultimates available and are quite far away from having them compared to GoodBoy, who are building up towards a Rage of Ultron. They push on in Dynamic Flight to try and dive onto the point. And Rage of Ultron coming on in, keeping the team topped up, taking out Nakwi, focusing as much damage as they can and keeping that Scarlet Witch topped up. It's one on the back line. It's just the Strange trying to buy every extra second they can. Beautiful delay by Exile, but they are now defending this as best they can. Media M, if they can land this onto the Invisible Woman, it could be huge, but no. Exile's able to escape. Lovely Dynamic Flight to avoid that, but Exile's taken out of the back line. They're keeping their team topped up. Counter portal for the Reinforce. Everyone else is coming in on foot. Aim High is taken down. Masa is overwhelming them with fire, with dark magic. Aya Magamoto secures the 0 hold.
3, 2, 3. Time to switch things
And with
up.
4 minutes remaining,
You're on.
the writing is on the wall for Incipience. Down a map
You'll need a
and now having to hold on 0% for 4 whole minutes. Incipience, they move over, they bring back the Captain America. This I prefer. If you are in overtime, do not start on Strange. You need that reinforcement potential. If your Strange is the last person to get taken down, who reinforces? If you have another pretty reasonable Vanguard option, then this is my opinion. A pro player will probably tell you differently. It's at least worth considering playing a different Vanguard option so that the first person who gets KO'd can swap to Doctor Strange and bring them in as a reinforcer.
30 seconds before you attack.
Shuri has swapped onto the Lunar Snow here. Mud has swapped onto the Doctor Strange. Aim High is on the Mr. Fantastic. They just had a triple roll swap. Risky. Incipience. They've decided Iron Man and Ultron are the name of the game. And look at this. They are leaving themselves off of that Doctor Strange, as I said, so they now have a potential for a reinforcer. Whoever gets taken out first can swap and portal. GoodBoy, they will not have that option, but they are going to burn their portal early, committing to a slightly quicker engage. Standard portal location. And they offset their portal to make sure that it's harder to counter portal. They commit to the high ground, pushing on in. Aim High on the Mr. Fantastic. Going to be pushing in. Not going to be as good against that Iron Man unless they can get him. Doxson takes out Massa very early. Doxson has done such huge work for their team right now, and this Iron Man is giving them a little bit of extra zoning, a little bit of siege onto this entranceway. The GoodBoy are trying to make for themselves. Massa returning to join the rest of the team from standard methods. They're trying to create an opening. Invisible Pulse Cannon is already charged for Doxson. Looking for an opening. Burning it early. Sends it out, but the tankiness is a little bit too high at this early stage from the Fate of Both Worlds coming in from Demacia with that God of Mischief. And Incipience, they're starting to lose members on the board. They need to make sure that they keep bodies there because they only need a third as a sliver remaining. They have to keep people down. Doxson needs to land, but they're taken down. Nakwi needs to portal the team, but it's too late. GoodBoy secure the cap and will take the series in yet another 4-3 map, taking it in a 2-0. What a setup. Mud moving over to that Doctor Strange at the end. These two teams so evenly matched. But Mud just slightly better in terms of getting those quicker caps and having more time to work with in overtime. Their defenses, it seems, in longer defensive fights, they might need a little adjustments, as they did get triple capped both games. But when it came down to short term, they were able to take it. It's longer drawn out games where they seem to struggle. But able to push in significantly faster. Very nicely done, GoodBoy. Able to give themselves more time in both setups. Double the time in the first game. Quadruple the time in the second. And they didn't even need it all. That is going to be a solid win going over to GoodBoy. They will continue through the upper bracket. And Incipience will head down to the lower bracket. Both these teams have performed exceptionally well. A really solid MRC performance in the past. And an incredible for the side of GoodBoy. And a close to qualifying for Ignite for Incipience. Both of them are going to be looking to try and progress further. Because remember, the top two teams in MRC will qualify for Marvel Rivals Ignite Stage 2. You just have to get to those grand finals and you skip the need to go in for open qualifiers again. The exact reason those open qualifiers not getting through is the exact reason why we are seeing Incipience here. So being able to skip them by winning here would be huge news for them. And of course, that could give you the opportunity to play for those global finals at the end of the year. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. I have a cast with someone else in a little bit, in about 13 minutes my time. So I'm going to end the cast here. Thank you all very much for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if there are any teams you would like me to cover in MRC. And check out the news. Rivals Esports Recap comes out every Monday. I work on all this stuff solo outside of casters who join me for cast sometimes. So drop on in and say hello. Drop on in and say thanks. Leave comments. Help boost the algorithm. Would be appreciated. I completely lost my train of thought. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.